tried so hard.
What you really want? What you really want?
But it doesn't even matter. Come on. Tried so hard.
What you really want?
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. Come on. Tried.
Give me a sign. Dog, I meet bitches, the street bitches, street bitches. Slash, Cocoa Puff, sweet bitches. Make you wanna eat bitches, but not me.
I tried so
I fuck with these hoes from a distance. The instant they start to catch feelings, I start to... What is it you want from it? I gave you, you gave me. I played you, you played me.
and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to lose it all, but in the end.
Welcome everyone to another live edition of the Showcase Pod. I am Don Vega, accompanied by the boss Chris Blackheart, and tonight our very special guest, New England Hall of Famer, the real deal, Joel Davis. Joel, welcome to the show.
Hey, Don, you know what I'm saying? You and Chris said you were going to deliver it. You delivered it. Here I am. I want to let everybody know, got the woo-woo. It's a one-legged. There it is. I don't know if we can see it over there, but try to check it out.
You got to go down, Joe.
Gotta go down a little bit, man.
Yep.
Can I get a woo?
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, there's got to be some guys out there.
And ladies. Ladies like it the most.
Those are those are the important ones.
No, but you know, I missed out not too long ago. I met a woman that I didn't know her religion or whatever, and you know, I wear what I wear. I do what I do. I'll never change. I'm the real deal, Joel Davis, inside and outside the ring. I always was. I always will be. But I did miss out on a lady because she asked me what was around my neck. I told her it was a St. Anthony and a crucifix, and she said she was Jewish. But before that, I was ready to bang her, but she wouldn't bang me because I had the cross on my neck. So I mean, hey, sometimes you miss opportunities.
Yeah, man, you got to work those.
I almost banged her.
Oh, well, that could have been good.
It could have been really
Could have been good. Chris Blackheart, how was your fourth?
Fourth was better than the third. Don't get me started on that one.
Oh, okay, all right.
But the idea is we have the real deal. Some people question, where'd you find him? Where's he been? And we're going to answer all of the questions tonight. The real deal from 1991 to present and even beyond.
So let's get right to it, Joe. You know, a lot of people want to know how you fell in love with the business of pro wrestling, how you get started watching pro wrestling.
Yeah, I started, like most people, 5, 6 years old, watching the old WWF, World Wrestling Federation, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, WWF. That's how I started, loving the sport, and I was 5, 6 years old and I always dreamed about being in the sport, and being an underdog because of my height and scoliosis and asthma, single parent growing up, everybody said I couldn't do it, you ain't going to do it, but guess what, mofos, I did it. And I found Walter Kowalski in the 1990s when I found the school. As I went through high school, I was in a backyard federation at first, working for the Taunton Wrestling Federation. It was a bunch of teenagers from school. I was the champion, Gentleman Joel. I had the strap the whole time. I beat everybody up with the 10 championship belt. I was a heel back then. Oh, I know you might be surprised, but I was a heel in the backyard in 85, 86, 87. And then as time went, 1990 was the time I took the ride up to Malden, and I met Richard Burns, Superstar Rich Burns. Yes. Rest in peace, Superstar Richard Burns. He said, Joel, listen, I introduced myself. He said, Walter's not here tonight. You're going to have to come back. It was late 1990, guys. And he said, I said, what do you think, Richard? He said, well, let me tell you something, brother. He says, you got a wide back and a big ass. He said, you should do pretty good. So I came back in early 91, February 5th, 91. I gave Walter, it was $1,500. I gave Walter $1,500. And that's when it all started. I trained with some of the greats. I trained with Triple H. I trained with Flying Bill Wilcox, Perry Satin, John Cronus of the Eliminators. Many different nights I trained with these gentlemen. Also, Freight Train Fulton. China was there, Joni Lara, God rest her soul too. She's passed away. And then there was Outback Jack would come in and train, but a lot of these different athletes were making their way up, and I had the opportunity to train with a lot of the greats, including, of course, Triple H being the biggest name. But Perry Satin was one of the greatest athletes. He is a legitimate strongman. And him and Cronus, they were the tag team, the Eliminators. And when I come up to train at Walters, a lot of times, he put me with somebody else, and basically, Satin and Cronus would tune us up a bit. That's how I started up in the business.
Okay,
Don.
so you definitely had a great group of people a great group of legends now in
Yeah.
the business. From there, what was your first match? Once you were ready to go, where and when was your first match?
Now, that's a great question. My first match, Walter was too. Walter would guarantee everyone a match. I mean, maybe Blackheart remembers this because Blackheart trained there too. And he would promise you one match, $100 bill. One match would be part of your contract. He wanted me to be in a mixed tag match. He wanted me to tag with someone like maybe Snooky Fink or one of these other guys, that were not as hot as tall, and work with other female wrestlers. And I just wasn't down for that. And then come October, I was asking Walter, it was September, October, Walter, am I going to be ready? He said, wait a minute. You know how he was, how Walter was, wait a minute. I'm like, am I ready? He said, just wait a minute. You get mad, like that, you scream and shit. And then in October, early October, Punisher, what I ended up doing was I ended up calling continuously Tommy Savoldi from the IWCCW in Parsippany, New Jersey, your home state. And I never knew Tommy. Tommy Savoldi was never in the office, but eventually he did answer the phone one night. I told him who I was. I told him I was out of Walters. He said, come on, kid. He's like the Jerry Lewis of pro wrestling,
Yes,
Tommy Savoldi,
yes,
right? He said, come on, kids, come on down to Laconia, New Hampshire. We got to show up there at the high school October 25th. It was October 25th. Come down to 25th. It was October. So I went up there. It was a long ride from Massachusetts. I went up there, and when I got to the locker room, I spoke with Tony Rumble, the Boston bad boy.
Okay.
Yes, God rest his soul. That's when I met Tony Rumble. It was October 25th, 91, IWCCW. I made my own trip up there. I wasn't waiting to be booked by Walter. Did I make a mistake? Maybe, but you know what? It don't matter. I wanted to live my dream. And so what ended up happening was Rumble told me, he says, we have no spots for you. In the locker room, it was so crazy. You had Surfer Ray Odyssey sitting there in his freaking chair, his beach chair. By the way, Surfer Ray Odyssey, I seen what you put on the IWCCW, that page saying, welcome to the Joel Davis website. That's a nice one, brother. But guess what, Ray Odyssey? People like my shit, so I put it on there. You know what I'm saying? And you're lucky you didn't get in a ring with me, Odyssey. I would have put you, I would have put the boots to you. I would have been a better champion than you. Anyway, so Coco Beware, the Birdman was there. Jumpin' Joe Savoldi. Kevin Sullivan was on the card. Also, Big City Mike, who's passed away. Tommy Dreamer was on the card. Man, I was 21, 22 years old, man. I was like, whoa, it's crazy. And Rumble says, I have nothing for you. I went back out into the crowd. I'm like, I'm going to enjoy the show. I sat down there in the front row, knowing nobody. Next thing you know, about 30 minutes later, Vito Calucci, a manager, he did the manager gimmick, Vito Calucci, he's like, hey, David, yeah, just squeal. I'm like, whoa, talking to me? He says, yeah, yo. So he said, Rumble wants to see you. I got up that seat so quick, I ran back there. I said, yeah, Tony. And Tony said to me, he says, you're on 3 with Muffet, Irish farm boy Tubby Muffet, Dan Vinyl. He was a trainee of Kowalski back in the day. Now Muffet was from that area. He was a New Hampshire guy, so they wanted to put him over, of course. And he was like a Haystacks Calhoun, modern Haystacks Calhoun. I had no, it was made sense that he was going to squash me. Yeah. And I remember Muffet saying to Rumble, "What do you want me to give this guy?" And Rumble said, "Nothing, just squash him." And he did. He squashed me 3 minutes. That was my first match. Sports Channel America, man.
Yeah, man.
IWCCW, man. That's why you got that tattoo right there.
You got the tattoo on Chris Blackheart. Any questions for the real deal?
I ended up going down south after that.
Ironically, I didn't know that story, so I think that's like the whole theme of the night.
We go back a lot of
years. What
years.
do you know about Joel? What don't you know, and what don't you want to know from Joel? That's probably the big question.
Well, listen, they don't call me the real truth, Joel Davis, for nothing. Hey, listen, I travel, I do what I do. Listen, you got a problem. Listen, this is the deal. Don't hate, appreciate.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's why you gentlemen invited me here tonight, because we love each other. And no matter what, even if I had heat with anybody in the business, we're all still brothers at the end of the day, man.
Yeah.
Really, I really don't dislike anybody. But I know there's been some haters in the business. It's what you put in, it's what you do, and how you put yourself out there. I remember Chris Blackheart saying years and years ago, and you remember, Chris, you said this, you said, Joel Davis, you promote yourself more than anybody. And I have, and I put myself out there, and everybody can do that. But don't hate, appreciate. But after the IWCCW, I ended up going down south. I ended up calling the Louisville Gardens night after night. I was hungry, 21, 22.
You got to make the call sometimes.
Got to make the call sometimes. And I was asking for Bill Dundee, and I was talking to the janitors, the managers, who the hell, I couldn't believe it. one night, finally, they get Bill. They hold on. Bill's in the arena, Louisville Gardens, USWA. Bill Dundee gets on the phone. Hey, boy, what can I do for you? I says, Bill, I said, my name's Joel Davis. I'm out of Kowalski's in Massachusetts. I said, can I come down to the USWA? Will you book me? Boy, how big are you? And he asked me a few questions, and I told him my size and everything. He said, I don't know, boy, but you come down. He said, we'll see what we can do with you. Blah, blah. So I took a bus down there, went down to Kentucky, and he sent somebody down there to pick me up named Huda, a guy named Huda. He pulled up. The guy was like Huda, and he showed up, and he put me in the back. Of the pickup truck, and he drove me. I'm like, where am I going? He's like, don't worry about it. You're gonna go see Bill, superstar. So I didn't give a shit. So he drives me over. It was at a furniture store. Bill Dundee owned a furniture store back in '91. I pull up, and out comes Jamie Dundee. He was all fired up, and Bill says, this is my son Jamie, and that's where a lot of people don't know. I was scheduled to be the other half of PG-13, and that's a shoot.
So
before Wolfie D.
So
Look it up,
So
people.
you made it down to Louisville. You got to meet the superstar, and like you mentioned, that could have been your spot. So what happened?
It could have been Punisher, but what happened? Real deal Joel Davis happened. You guys know how I am. I ended up.
So you get some heat with the superstar.
Well, the superstar, the superstar, and me, we got along a little bit. But what happened was, I ended up having a little disagreement with the superstar. I told him. What happened was, you want to know the truth?
Yeah, man.
There was a show
Absolutely.
coming up in Louisville Gardens, and I was down there with Superstar, and I guess I was out of line. I was only like 2-3 shows into my career, and Bill said to me, I traveled with Bill. He always traveled with a gun, a piece underneath his driver's seat, and he would stop and talk to his wife. I remember traveling with Bill, and I remember talking to him on these long road trips, and I worked a lot of cars. I worked up Junkyard Dog. Sylvester Ritter was the main event on some of these cards. I met Randy Rose down there, Chris Champion of the New Breed.
Yes.
Guys, I had some good company. I was learning the ropes, and Jamie said to me, he said, brother, just listen to what my dad says, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, Jamie, don't worry about it. So I guess what happened was, Bill was working with Jerry the King Lawler one night down there. Mm-hmm. And I told Bill that I thought I should work with Jerry. And I don't think he liked that.
He didn't like that very much.
I didn't like that very
You wanted
much.
to.
He's like, brother, you got to slow down, But Jamie was a big partier. He woke up with a water bong every morning. Marijuana. They put Jack Daniels instead of water in there. But Jamie and I were talking, and before I had left, I left like at 2 in the morning. I decided I was going to leave. I left and I came back, but before I left, there were nights that Jamie was talking to me about a tag team. He said he had an idea. The idea was PG-13. I met Wolfie D before they became the PG-13. The reason why I met him is we had some house parties out there.
Yeah.
And Wolfie D, who was his real brother-in-law, was at one of the parties, and he didn't like it that I was a Yankee, so to speak. So when everybody was drinking, Wolfie D was trying to intimidate me and scare me out of the South. He wanted me out of there. So what he did is he had a double-barrel shotgun one night.
Yeah.
He this is the shoot, man. No shit. He put the double barrel at me. He aimed it at my legs. He said, "Jump, boy, jump!" And he cocked it. It was air. He didn't have anything in it. But damn, I jumped so fucking high. And that night I left. But hey, man. Oh, you like that?
So
I do.
you was out of there.
You know that one either. But
No, that's a new one. So back to Massachusetts you came, and what happened next? How did the real deal Joe Davis start his career in Massachusetts once again?
So now I'm coming back from the South, Punisher. I'm coming back, right? And I think not too long after this, I had met Blackheart not too long after this, because he was getting back in too. Well, he was starting up. What happened was I ended up getting back to Massachusetts, and I ended up working for a league down in New Bedford. You know who it is. We ain't gonna say his name, but I worked down there with them, and I worked with we were mentioning the way Bad Attitude, Bob Moran, God rest his soul. Jerry McRae was a good friend of mine. He was murdered by his son, and I worked with Bad Attitude, and I worked with Dynamite Rocky Shaw. I worked with the Blade Runner, Derek.
Yeah,
God rest his
Derek,
soul.
yep.
He also passed away recently. Lumberjack Rick Fuller was down
Yes.
there. Powerful Pat Garrett.
Yeah.
Okay, these are the guys. Sky King. Okay, these are the guys that I worked with, 2 or 3 shows, and I worked with the Lizard Man down there, Paul Lazon, and Eugenio didn't like my style, whatever have you, and I never got along
So
with him.
this is New England wrestling,
New
Yankee Pro Wrestling.
Yes. 3 shows. I'm out. Now I'm out. Now I'm back on the scene again. I start working for Rick Martellio, big Rick Martellio, the big city Mike. He worked IWCCW back in the day. Good friends of Big John Callahan. I start working with him, and I get more experience. I get some experience. I work with the Mountie, Ray Roy.
Yes.
Yeah, you know him.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Ray Roy, great talent. I work with him in some main events over there. I met Whiskey Jack Savage, who was a WWF referee. I get to work with Big John Callahan. I get to work with a lot of different names. Now I'm like back in Massachusetts, back in the Northeast, and then bang, I get the call. Boston bad boy Tony Rumble calls me. And I remember the message. I remember where I was too. He called and he said, Joel Davis, this is Boston. He said Boston bad boy. Boston bad boy Tony Rumble, call me back at your earliest convenience. I called back in about 34 seconds. I called him right back and I said, hey, Tony, Joel Davis here. And he says, I want you to come down, and get a tryout. I got the tryout with him. I don't know if it was a tryout, but it was the first show with him. And not too long after that, Kevin Sullivan was working with him, and Kevin Sullivan did a little shooting on me, beat me up pretty good, and I was with Rumble for a lot of years, brother, a lot of years.
So
CWA, I was with the original CWA,
Okay.
and then the NWA New England. I held both light heavyweight straps. Don't hate it. It happened, okay? The real deal Joel Davis. But see, I never kissed ass. I never did anything, just like you guys. I mean, I'm sitting next to 2 guys that worked hard. I remember this guy Blackheart walking into TGA Nautilus in Brockton with a frickin' cane doing cables. Okay? I remember this guy Vega coming up, keeping minding his business, doing his thing, paying his dues, and making a name for himself. Always, being like a gentleman and doing his thing. You're looking at 3 pros here. Okay? So give a 5-star review. But yeah, so it was great. It was great.
Thanks for. I got you after we leave.
You got me a little something?
Yeah, a little something.
What else? The
Payday for that.
podcast is not over, so the shovels.
We're just getting started,
They
so
can still come out.
now you get the call from the Boston bad boy Tony Rumble. You're set to go. Like you said, Century Wrestling Alliance. Then, how does that happen? How does it go from Century to NWA New England?
Tony Rumble buys into NWA. He buys in with Dennis Carluzzo, and he buys in. He buys a portion of it. Him and his wife Ellen, they buy into NWA New England. We get a big announcement. It was in Somerville at the Good Times Emporium. It was a TV taping, and Rumble gets everybody together and says we're becoming the NWA New England. And then once we became NWA New England, everything went up. We were on more television. We did more traveling. We did Osnaburg, New York. We worked a lot of bigger shows.
Yeah.
And that's how it converted over. And Rumble kept most of the boys, but some of them he got rid of. I mean, and some of them he brought in just to do jobs. Because when we did television, we were there 5, 6, 7 hours. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And and we did our thing. I mean, I went in. Anybody that's worked with me, I mean, if you liked me or you didn't like me or you can't figure it out if you like me or love me or whatever it is right now, remember, I was always a pro. I always went in there and did my thing and got my job done. I didn't drink. I didn't drug before I went in the ring. I never did. I never say I didn't drink after the show, but I never drank before the show. And but the idea is I got to work with a lot of different pros. You got to remember, Rumble had Vic Steamboat,
Yes.
Tony Mr. USA Atlas. 2 big names just right there. But he also brought in Public Enemy, Johnny Grunge, and Rocco Rock, God rest his souls. Those guys were great workers. I got to mention this guy's gentleman. You know this gentleman when I mention him. You remember the original Undertakers? He was Double Trouble, WWF. Big Val Puccio. Remember the big guys? They sold the name back.
Yeah, before my time. Yeah,
Before
but
your
I've
time,
heard
but
about.
the big
I've
guy.
heard about
What a
it.
nice guy. He died so young. I worked with him many times, and I got to work with some bigger names like King Kong Bundy and Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Also, Public Enemy. I worked with Public Enemy, and it was all because working with Rumble.
Okay.
So that's how I got in. So I was a legitimate NWA New England guy and a legitimate CWA original guy, debuting with IWCCW. Not for nothing, gentlemen, and we have a lot of respect for each other here, and no disrespect to anybody listening to the show, but I am a legit professional indie pro wrestler. You know, I'm not the guy that said, "Where'd you debut?" Well, we had a mattress out back on, Harry Street, and we were on a mattress, and it was back. No, that wasn't my debut. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Chris is trying not to laugh because I don't know if Chris is how you debuted or not, but I'm just saying. You know what I mean? But yeah, and thanks for. This is beautiful in here. It's about 114 degrees in here, Danny.
Sweating your balls off, huh, Joe?
Well,
contain
my ball. Thank God my balls are big, because otherwise I'd have no balls by now.
You know, it happens after 40. They start.
Well, it happens, but you know what? My next comedy gig, I'm going to be at the Harry Del Lasseria restaurant. It's an Italian restaurant on Wednesday. It's going to be Wednesday, July 9th. And speaking of all that, I was told I'm not getting an actual cash payday, but I'm trying to make a name for myself in stand-up comedy. I'm getting paid in leftover meatballs.
Leftover meatballs.
So I don't mind.
That could be good. See, Joe, you're jumping the gun. We're gonna get to all that. You know.
Well, no,
You're.
I'm excited. The SPW
You're a comedian now. We'll get to that. But Blackheart, any questions about Joe
all right,
and the
so let's
NWA?
go in. So we went NWA New England.
So and now we're in NWA New England.
NWA New
Tony
England.
passed away in
Tony
1999.
passed away.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, it was
1999. He passed.
early October.
Yes. I was at his wake. I was at Tony Rumble's wake. I was.
Yep. Early October, and then NWA changed.
Oh, change wasn't the word. I mean, it was a whole different ballgame. I mean, you got a guy, Jason Rage, that becomes his son. You know, Jason Rage becomes his son. Is this a shoot? This is a shoot, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
man.
Jason,
Life is a
Rumble,
shoot.
Yeah.
Rumble, Jason Rage becomes Jason Rumble.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I like Jason. You know, I always like Jason. You know, and the only thing about Jason, which is like most, no, I would say most, but at least half of the guys in the business, is he's two-faced. Because I mean, Jason and I always got along. He was one of my cornermen at my cage fight, my MMA cage fight, because I did MMA cage fighting for a short stint in 2011, 2012.
Yep,
and
we'll
Jason,
get to that.
We'll
Yep.
get to that. Jason Rumble, my brother, was one of my cornermen. But Jason Rumble has been on podcasts with that other guy who I don't even know who the hell he is. That little guy called Powerhouse Mike that trained with Ox Baker, the king of the hot punch. God rest in peace, Ox Baker, the king of the hot punch. Now they have their little podcast. You know, they put their podcast on there. They get about 3 views in about 3 years. And Rumble, no one's watching your shit. I'm sorry. And you got this guy, Powerhouse Mike. Pun, Punisher. I know I'm good if I call him Pun. You call him Punisher.
Yeah.
And he's got this guy, Powerhouse Mike, that talks about training with Ox Baker. And then Rumble says to him, "Hey, what did you do for training?" And he says, "Well, Ox had me clean the garage and move the peat moss." I'm like, brother, that ain't training pro wrestling, man.
Well,
You got worked. You got taken for your money. But Jason on the podcast talks shit about Joel Davis. And then he asked Powerhouse Mike, did the name game? Joel Davis, and then Mike, Powerhouse Mike, who trained cleaning the garage for Baker, says, "If you don't have nothing nice to say, you don't say nothing at all."
No.
Give me a break, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I'd kick both of your asses.
Well, there you go.
I'm just
The real-
saying. I mean,
the real deal's getting warmed
don't
up.
get
I
me
like
going,
it.
man.
I like
no, I'm
it.
just saying. I never back down from nobody. I never back down from anybody now. You know what I mean? I'm
We
a
might
nice
have
guy.
to-
Just don't rattle my cage.
We might have to play the name game soon.
Well, you know.
But before
definitely.
we get to that, we're gonna do some of the rundown here. We have Joe in the studio. You know, we got upcoming events for Showcase Pro Wrestling on July 14. We'll be at the Showcase Pro Wrestling Arena Training Center
That is a Friday night.
in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, 126 Main Street. The 28th, the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And the 29th Fan Fest, that will be at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Warwick, Rhode Island. And on July 30th, we're in Providence, Rhode Island, India Point Park for the Puerto Rican Bay Fest. That's going to be a great event there, Joe. I heard you're inducting somebody into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to this. So if you gentlemen don't mind, so I have 3 more dates in the month of July.
Absolutely.
So July on Wednesday night, July 19th, I'm working for Allison Diane. What a sweetheart lady. She's got one joke that everybody loves. She talks about being married for 5 years, and her mother is finally warming up to her ex-boyfriends. I mean, so it's a pretty good joke. Allison, I love you. Thanks for having me on. I know you're listening tonight. It's called Dying for Laughs. It's going to be at the Harry Del Lasseria, Mia, something like that. It's a restaurant. It's in Massachusetts, Wednesday night, July the 19th. I'm one of the comedians.
Okay.
Can't wait. My first Massachusetts appearance. I know I did the Joe Biden impersonation. I'm still getting hate calls and shit.
Nah, that was great, man.
Yeah,
That was
man.
great. I saw that
I
live.
saw that live,
Yeah,
brother.
man, you still got that front bump down, man. That
Yeah,
was great.
I got a pretty good bruise on the right knee. But you know what? I did the bump. I should have wore the knee pads. You know what I mean? I took the fall. My head hit the stage. The plant moved a little bit. Those people in the front row didn't laugh at anything, but when they saw the fall, they're like, oh, this is hilarious.
Yes, yeah,
It's good, though. But so that's my next comedy booking. And then from there, that's July 19. And then from there on, it's July 28, correct?
Yes, July 28th.
July 28, it's the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame over there in West Warwick, Rhode Island at the big plaza. What's it called?
Crown Plaza Hotel.
The Plaza Hotel. I want to do this right on air. Congratulations, Punisher Don Vega,
Thank you,
for
man. I
being
appreciate it.
a inductee into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. You saw that. That's real. We should practice being real a little more out there. I'll be there. I can't wait to see this guy get inducted. Trooper Gilmore's getting inducted. Trooper Gilmore's getting inducted. How the hell did that? Well, oh, no. And we also have getting inducted that same night. Referee Rich Lannon. And he emailed me about 2 weeks ago and he asked me to do the induction. I couldn't believe it. He said in the email, he says, this is the email. He says, Joel, he says, you're one of the only guys still around, still alive or whatever from the old school from Walden.
Yes.
Would you do my induction? Rich Lannon says, he says, you can talk good. He says, so can you do it? I says, Rich, I'll do it. But at the end of the email, he says, which I still don't understand, Rich, if you're listening tonight, can you figure this shit out? But you already know, Rich puts in the email, he says, they're giving me a hotel, but I don't sleep at night. Bro, it's too much information, first of all. And second of all, what the hell did you mean? But Rich, I'll be there for you. So I'm doing the induction. Punisher Don Vega's getting in. Barry Horowitz is another big name, WWF star. He worked as Barry Hart. You know, and it's gonna be a big
Great
night, man.
class.
And
Joe Gertner.
Joe Gertner from
Mike McGurr, one of the first
yep,
female.
Joe Gertner, ECW. Yep.
Ring announcers.
One more thing. July 30, Comedy Park at John Parada's Comedy Factory. I'm back there at the Comedy Park, Cranston, Rhode Island. I'm going to bring the Real and Raw back to the stage. So just come on up, say hello. You'll see the Woot Woot one-legged, not the small one you saw tonight, but the full Woot Woot. Come on up, get close. Check it out. I do sincerely appreciate anyone that can make a show or even share a post like Blackheart's been so nice to do. Vega actually showed up with his great nephew, Hollywood J, and his sister and the other beautiful lady that was there. I always remember that. Remember, you got to chase your dreams. I do have something in the works that I'm going to announce right now in September. I do have a possible bookings in New York City, and I also am working on the RDPW. I've talked to you gentlemen about that. We're just working on that. Another indie fed. Just something to keep things going because I have the love for the business like you gentlemen.
Yeah, man. No
Nothing
doubt.
wrong with that, man.
No doubt. There's nothing wrong with
Nothing
that.
wrong with that.
Joe, I do have to say that I talked to Joe Bruin a couple days ago, and he's given the inductors only like 3 minutes. I know you're gonna have a. I know you're gonna.
Whoa! Wait a minute.
It's like 3
Wait a
minutes.
minute.
You got. You're making a phone call. Are you got Joe on speak.
Joe, you told me I had 30 minutes for that
You gotta
one.
move into the
30,
frame.
you told me.
We lost you there.
Yeah,
Yeah, there we go. There we
you-
go. Now we got you. There
Joe,
there we
you
go.
told me I had 30 minutes to induct Landon. Landon's only going to talk 2 minutes. He'll probably fall asleep. He's a zombie.
Wow.
Landon can't talk. You gave him a hotel. He doesn't even sleep at night.
Wow.
The last email that Landon sent me, he told me that he had all this information. He sent me like 25 pages of shit about his career, and then at the end of the email, he said, "This is all fucked up."
I figured you would enjoy that information.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
I got to drive an hour and 15, Joey.
It's a 3 minute.
All right,
there.
I can keep it. I can keep it
you-
down.
you
I
got-
can keep
you
it.
gotta
I don't
keep it
talk
down.
much.
Yeah, well,
All
we'll
right,
find
let's
out.
get
The
back
only way you're gonna find out is July
Be there.
28th, Crown Plaza, Warwick, Rhode
And
Island.
if you hear this, I got one more story. You know you're fucked.
That's going 20 minutes. So now going back to your career and having spent the time in the NWA New England, talk to us about UCW, Anthony Rufo.
Oh man, love Anthony Rufo. I ended up working for Anthony after Rumble passed away. So now Anthony Rufo is running UCW, the Ultimate Championship Wrestling.
Yep.
And it was really nice to work for Anthony. Now I worked for not to go back, but I worked for Universal Championship Wrestling in 1992. That's when I worked with Scotty Too Hardy, Scott Taylor, and that was taped out in Nashua, New Hampshire. That's when Playboy Vince Apollo was working there. Bad Hammer Jones, God rest his soul, another big guy, Sid Vicious lookalike.
Yeah.
That was that UCW. But going back to the UCW Ultimate Championship Wrestling that Anthony Rufo ran, that was a class act. I think that's when I met you.
Yes.
So you're talking, I met you, Dawn, on, it was probably in the year 2000, 2001, maybe.
Yeah.
And Blackheart was involved over there. You were team. I was teaming with Dan Badani, Bionic.
Bionic
yeah,
behind
like
the
that.
board over there.
The-
He's
the man,
production.
the man with the fan. And, Dan Badani and I were the All-American deal because Badani was doing the All-American gimmick, but really wasn't a gimmick because he's a collegial and amateur wrestler legitimately and now a power lifter. And Dan and I teamed up, and I was always the real deal my whole career. I never changed the name. So we were the American deal, and we had the straps. Rufo put the straps on us, and we were just talking about we dropped the straps to you gentlemen in Braintree, Mass, and you barely got out there alive.
Yes.
They wanted to kill you two.
Yeah.
And Vega grabbed the microphone. I still remember like it was yesterday and said, "Don't you say USA?" And me and Badani took that, and we were doing it. We got the USA going, and Blackheart does what he does best, nothing. And it was a great show. It was a great match, and we dropped the straps to these two pros. Anthony Rufo, God rest his soul. I loved Anthony. Anthony was so disappointed that I didn't continue in MMA. That's kind of a shoot because we used to talk. I remember Anthony coming to one of my sports collectible shows, Anthony Rufo. Now, no one knows this story. Me and Anthony became kind of friends on the outside. And Anthony came to one of my sports card shows. He said, "Joel," he says, "I have some basketball cards." I said, "Bring them down, Big Ant." You know, call him Big Ant.
Yeah.
I said, "Bring them down, Big Ant." I said, "We'll see what we can do." He says, "I got a few." A few? He had a freaking rollaway suitcase. Here comes Big Anthony Rufo. You know what I mean? Ali Muhammad himself.
Yeah.
Rolling it in. And what a nice time we had that day talking. And he loved his mom. He loved his daughter. He was a great guy. God rest your soul, Anthony Rufo. Yes, you know, we get closer with some guys get a little closer, and me and Rufo, I think we're close, and I always gave it my all. He even put me in there to teach a lesson to Skunk O'Malley one night, and I kicked the shit out of him. And you know, it's a shoot, man. I mean, Anthony said take care of it, and I took care of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hey, if
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
yeah, well, I mean,
That's
you're
an
gonna-
oldie.
I mean, we're bringing it up because you know he worked a little bit for Rufo.
Might have to get the pedal police involved in that one.
Oh, we're not going down that road tonight.
I'm just saying, you know. So, you know, Anthony, great guy. He's one of the first guys to help
UCW.
me out in my start. But going back to you, after the UCW run was over, this is when you start training. You decide you want to get into MMA, or?
Yeah, so UCW Dawn was that was 2000, 2001. 2002, 2003. I'm still working there. I'm television champion. I take the strap. I go out as champion. And 2003, broken tailbone, bad ankle that had been broken in a vertical suplex. No one knows, but I was all fucked up. I was injured really, really bad. I continued to, you know, go out there and defend the strap right up until that last show. I talked to Travis Funk, you know, the Portuguese guy that's from Texas. I spoke to him, and I also talked to Rufo when I said I'm all done after this. And I remember Funkster there, Travis, running after me. "You can't do it." It's like, "Watch me," and he didn't like it. But you know, I had to move on. So 2003, I retired briefly. That's when I had my daughter in 2005. I got married, biggest mistake I made in my life. And then I came back in 2009. I made the comeback, and that's when I started working for Showcase.
Yeah, we're just getting that.
Yeah, we're getting there, but so not MMA yet. So now 2009, but I'm already starting to train. I'm already starting to trim down. I'm trying to recreate myself because I went through such a terrible marriage. I was married 9 years. I'm not going to lie. I was married 9 years. I had at least one good year out of 9. The rest sucked. Actually, about 6 months was all it was. And then I ended up. That's a shoot. I hope she's not watching.
No.
Next one. But it don't matter. But so
Gotta
now
keep it real.
Gotta keep it real.
Yeah.
2009, I come back, and that's when I reconnect with Blackheart. Vega, who's been a mainstay from Showcase from day one. You're over there. You got a lot of these different different talent that you had back then. Chris, you still owe me about $100 from the photo shoot. I don't know if you remember that, but you do. I haven't forgot.
Wow,
It's
that's
$20 a shot at
This
Escapades.
is the only guy that booked his own heavyweight title match in the newspaper and then told me, do you remember Raham?
Yeah.
You remember that? I literally had to call the locker room out to shoot on Joel because he thought that he was in the company maybe like 2 matches, and he won a heavyweight championship match. He paid for his own ad, which great publicity.
Well, no, I didn't pay for that ad, brother. They put that in there. I mean, if you remember, I slapped a taste out of your champion's face.
Who was the champion? at
Nick
that
Knight.
time?
Let's say his
Oh,
name.
Nick Knight.
No.
Okay.
Why did you not like him? Was he because he was taller than
He
you?
needed
or?
a tattoo. I gave him a little tap in my hand.
Yeah,
on the side
no.
of his-
You guys just never.
No.
Which
there's-
for? I'll be honest. For
He
wrestling,
needed to respect the real deal, Joe
for
Davis.
wrestling, I
came
thought
back,
it
he
was
needed-
good.
I come back. He needed to respect me. He didn't. I
Yeah.
called him out. I gave him a slap to the face.
Yeah.
I mean, they called that the shot heard around Rainham. They fucking echo. That was like a shot. Your referees, I don't know who they were. You said the blind guy or something, the deaf guy.
I have no idea.
Those
who-
referees didn't know what the hell
Back
happened.
then,
But the fans popped.
it could have been Peter B.
No, it wasn't Peter B. No.
Yeah.
These guys were like 150 pounds each. Peter B. tipped the scales at 400.
Could have been Deaf Matt, was it?
It was 2 referees that they couldn't believe what happened,
Well,
and that's
yeah.
when he got back in the
He
ring.
definitely didn't pay those guys. I can tell that much.
Don't
I
go
think
down
one
the
of them is fucking the other guy you got now. That guy that sucks.
Look, if
guy-
you worked for me, you got paid. You may not like to get paid, but you got paid.
Do you remember I brought you Bubba Brazil Jr.? Remember the black guy, Mike
No.
Jones? The mother used to go to train. I was training up at your place over there in Central Falls. I almost got robbed 2 nights.
No.
Remember that place you had?
Oh, I remember the place.
Yeah. And I was training over there. You don't remember that guy? And you took over the training. Yeah, we called him Bobo Brazil Jr.
No.
He had one spot. He did a cocoa butt. He did a cocoa butt.
Oh man, I'm having bad
You
memories.
know who he
now.
is. I
I'm-
gave you a big star. You used him for at least one show. He jobbed in the first match. You owe me for that, bro.
Yeah, I don't
That
think
was a
I don't
good-
think that one happened. I don't think that
Bro,
one
I'm
happened.
not
All right,
making-
getting back into track here. So now you start working for Showcase. Was that your first night in Rainin?
My first night working in Rainham.
Yeah, for Showcase. I mean, was that
Yeah,
your first night?
I think that was my first night when I called the champ out and I slapped him in the face.
First night, you slapped the taste out of the champion's mouth there. You continue to work for Showcase after that? Or
Not much longer because Chris suspended me because of the Gary Gold incident.
Well,
I don't know what happened.
I-
I just heard
what-
the ambulance
what-
got
So it could have been all right. So Joe
You
did
know
a
what
self.
happened.
So Joe did a self promotion. Now I think we're at the Moose Lodge. I think you wrestled a young Roger Williams. I think, and you
Yeah.
body slammed him outside.
Yeah,
And
you told me just to trash him, and I did. I trashed him.
All right, I'm not sure about that one.
You told me to trash
No.
him.
And,
I
and
did
if
it.
he's watching, remember when we went to the reunion? What was it that you
Yeah.
called him? Are you still the jobber underneath the mask?
Yeah.
Love
He
you,
hasn't
Brian.
changed. The only thing that's changed with that guy is he's a jobber with a different mask, and he's supposed to be from
Right.
Roger Williams Park, dude.
Right.
I know where you're from, Central Falls. I mean, come
No,
on.
but I think that was all the same night that you got in altercation with Gary, and you went after Gary in the ring.
Do we know what really happened? This is a shoot show, right? You want to
No.
let the people know
All
what
right,
happened?
yeah.
Okay.
John Senior, your boy. John Senior, you've been talking
Yeah.
shit for a while,
Oh,
man.
yeah. Okay.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
His story
do
is
this.
so
Let's-
mixed up.
Let's
Yeah.
do the
No,
story.
no, tell the
Fan
story,
Bob,
tell the
you
story.
Tell the story.
I've watched this podcast before.
I'll correct
Blackheart
it.
tries to protect the guilty and let well, I don't know what he does, but he tries not to say
Oh,
names.
fuck that.
And
Let's
Vegas-
go.
No,
Let's shoot it.
John
I don't
Senior.
protect the
All right,
guilty.
let the guest speak.
He
'Cause
says, I
Blackheart-
can't, exactly, I can't see you. That guy there, John Senior. The only reason why you got a job is because your son, okay? And you went in there with Gary Gold, and you two were talking to me in the back, and Gary was on his, 12th beer. Gary, you were drunk as a skunk. Exactly, and I know that even the tech guy's laughing because it's true. Gary, you had a problem. Your problem was drinking too much before you got in the ring. You were sloshed. Your eyes were like 2 tomatoes. And you were telling me, hey, don't hate John. I'm like, Gary, what you slurred speech? No, I'm serious, Davis. Don't hit John. Don't touch John. And he, doing his little strut. Like, bro, doing the flare strut in the locker room, give me a break. He was so drunk. Just because you were the manager, because he was the manager of the Moose Lodge back then, he was drinking for free. So he was at 12, 13 beers before we went on. We go on, right? Right? You know what I'm talking about. Now, they're in there. We're going to do a boxing intro is what we're supposed to do. So we're supposed to be introducing our corners. And there's John Senior looking at he said it was his credit card invoice, saying, you can't throw any baby carriages. You can't do this, which was cool. That was a good little, and he's going on. Now, I'm working with Senior. As I'm working with Senior, Gary decides to pop me in the side of my face. Yeah,
Oh, he sucker punched.
he sucker punched me. And the rest is history.
Okay.
He left with a broken sternum, hospitalized. And if Chris didn't send 14 referees out there, I would have probably killed him.
Was it 14 referees? Chris?
Not 14, but 4, 5, 6.
No,
I
no,
remember
but-
someone saying,
No, I think we did clear the locker room
Yeah.
because Joel was out of control.
Joe was Joe. He was the real deal.
Yeah, no, well,
I
he
got-
was,
I
no,
got
he
pissed
was
off,
he
man.
was more than the real deal.
I've only got angry maybe a few times, and that was one of those few times. I never get angry, man. But
So he didn't even get to drop kick you in the nuts. This was just a blind side punch to the face.
no, at this time, though, during this time of Gary's career and the drinking he was doing, he was getting up to the kneecaps on the drop kick.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
So I didn't get drop kicked in the knees. Gary should have retired 14 years ago. Let's be honest. I mean, that's why they call him Gary Old instead of Gary Gold, and they yell 9 months pregnant. Come on, Gary.
You know,
Come on, man.
you know, Gary's sporting a new look now. I haven't seen Gary in a little bit, but last time I saw
Tiny
him,
Tim.
well,
Tiny Tim. or
It's a
Benjamin?
cross between Ben Franklin and yeah,
I love
you,
though.
Gary.
I love Gary too. I don't know.
You know, shout out to the
Shout
the Nature Boy.
Yeah, I mean,
There we go.
but he's got to get over this thing with Travis Funk. They've been a tag team since '71. I mean, come on, you guys, you guys should just hang it. I mean, when you're done, you're done. You know what I mean? I retired.
So I take it that event was the last event that Joe Davis worked for Showcase at that point in time.
Chris told me to get out the back. I was going to get killed.
Yeah, no, that was one of the. Well, I guess I'm counting more on my hands as I get older. I get madder, I guess. But yeah, no, I was not happy with Joel because I knew Gary and him were friends, and I just remember Joel
Yeah, I
kept
respect
saying,
that. I do.
you know, he punched me, and
But
I'm like,
did you watch it? Did you ever watch it? I mean, you can see.
yeah,
what
no,
happened.
but and
Probably
I,
not.
I remember my
I mean-
line. I remember I was mad at you. I said, yeah, I'll punch you because I was mad. I really was mad.
You were mad?
Yeah, I was mad.
And you've
because-
never seen me work like that. I never. I don't. I mean, it's.
Well,
I
let's
don't.
put it this way. I wrestled Joel for how many times? And
Yeah.
put it this way, anytime I wrestled Joel, it had Joel,
I'm snug, I'm
Joel
snug, I'm snug.
Davis eyes. When you see the white of your eyes, you have no idea what's coming through.
He says that's about everybody.
No, no, no.
He's
You
like,
got the
"Oh,
same
I's
look.
got
Oh,
the
no, you got
eyes."
the same look. You guys could be twins from different mothers.
We got the we don't take.
No,
shit
no,
eyes.
no, no, no. Joel is crazy.
That's it.
Right,
But
look
we're
what happened in
both
New
the same.
York.
We're both
No, look what
soft-spoken
happened in
outside
New
the
York,
ring.
right?
Yes, yes,
Huh?
yes.
Remember when we did the Rock with the signing with the Rock, and you're throwing like trash cans in the ring. And
Oh yeah,
Rumble-
we worked the
and
show.
Rumble got
Okay, so
all
let's
mad.
talk about that.
All right, let's
This is
talk
a good
about
shoot.
that.
I
Yeah.
think Vega might like this
Yeah,
story,
yeah.
and the listening audience gonna like it. Chris and I, and be, honestly, I don't mean no. I mean, because Chris, you're shooting a little bit on me, so I'm gonna
No,
hammer
that
you
was
right
real.
now.
I mean,
Honestly, to be
don't
honest with you-
don't hate the
Let's be-
truth
All right.
because the truth is real.
Well, you call me the real truth, Joe Davis. So
I know, I like-
here's the
I-
real truth. I started Chris Blackhart in the business. Okay, I mean, I
no,
didn't train
no.
him. I didn't train you,
No,
but
no.
I got you a lot of breaks. I got you in with Rumble. I got you in with the AWA. Dale Gagne, Vern Gagne's son. Dale Gagne,
no,
the
that was-
brother of Greg.
No, I thought that was Johnny Stewart.
Johnny Stewart worked the card, brother. Illustrious
I
Johnny
thought he
Stewart.
booked it. Wasn't he giving out the bologna sandwiches?
No, you got a good payday. I got you a good gig up there. We worked Brooklyn, New York at the Total Valley Fitness, and we worked that show. I got you on that show. I got you on all the Rumble shows. I basically got you like all your career for the first 2-3 years. You were.
Right, but okay. So if
you-
Joe wants
I-
to tell
you-
the truth, let's actually break down the truth. So
But you remember working with The Rock? Rock Maivia? Because of who? Because I brought
no,
you.
no, no.
We
that-
went into
no,
New
you
York.
got
Who got
that
you that
booking.
one?
So no, you did.
Okay.
Absolutely no, because
And remember you chased Rocky when you were in the bathroom?
That was you.
shower?
I tell that story to this day.
Yeah, he told me about that
I'm like,
story.
let me
too.
tell this story. But no, on that one it was good because I legitimately met Joel. I was having my ACL surgery. I would go from physical therapy over to the gym to Nautilus.
TGA, yeah.
Yep. Joel legitimately saw a guy, kid on crutches. Kind of we had conversations. So when I was rehabbing, we used to work out together. And then, when I got everything going, you were working for NWA New England. That's when you were actually out there. You actually met him NWA New England probably like really 98.
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
and
Vega
then-
came in for a few,
Yeah.
few
Yeah.
shots too, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then,
But really got to know you when you worked for Rufo.
Yeah.
We all go
Right.
back. Hey, listen,
Yeah.
listen, an audience. I don't care if you're one of the boys or one of the ladies or just a Mark or whatever you are. Remember, you got 3 pros here. I mean, us 3 guys have been around. No shit.
Yeah.
And that's a show.
no, but the New York story was a fun story.
It was.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, you said I chased the Rock
So,
You did.
with no clothes on. I was.
I had a possibility that might have happened.
I had to talk to him, and you know what I mean.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
Now this is before The Rock got big. You know, in
He
any
wasn't a big
capacity.
name. He did a promo for that show,
Yeah.
and that's when I hit you with the trash barrel. And
Yes.
actually, somebody got angry because the trash went everywhere and stuff like that.
And it was a new canvas. And now I call that the midget ring because the ropes were like modified.
That was a great show.
So I got 2 questions before you continue. Sorry to cut you off,
No,
Joe.
go ahead, brother.
Did he get paid in the bologna sandwich?
No, I don't eat bologna sandwiches.
Well, that's your loss if you take the payday.
Bro, he got paid. They gave him an 8. Yeah.
terrible discount on his payday. Or?
Oh, I got a tiny the terrible story. I got a tiny the terrible
you
story.
got one?
Yeah,
All
I got
right,
a tiny
see
the
ya.
terrible
All right,
story.
well, I don't think we're there yet.
No, before we get to the tiny the terrible story, you got paid with an AWA T-shirt, as far as I remember.
I think I still have that.
Yeah, you still have that shirt, and you stole it out of Johnny Stewart's.
I didn't know. I do not steal
Someone was
stuff.
going in his suitcase. We don't.
No,
we did.
no.
Okay.
But Chris and I worked first match. We worked after The Rock. It was a great show. It was packed. It was at Total Value Fitness in Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn, New York.
I believe that was correct.
Brooklyn, New York. But Tiny the Terrible, quick story because I know people love him in the area. I like Doug, right?
Yeah, Doug. Yep.
I like Dougie. That little bastard, you know. He was good friends with Trooper Gilmore, and I remember them pulling up. We were doing a show, NWA New England, and Tiny was in the front, feet like not even nowhere near the floor. He's sitting there like a little kid, and he says, "You sitting there?" I said, "What? Why am I gonna sit in the back? You gotta sit in the back, man. You gotta sit in the back, man." And he had a big freaking knife, a big blade. He showed me the knife. He said, "No one's gonna fuck with us tonight. No one's gonna." I said, I didn't even know the guy. I just met him. I'm like, Trooper, who is this fucking guy? He's like, Tiny the Terrible. I said, is he working? No, he just comes up to the shows. He never probably works, not much, but he's going to come up. He's a midget. I'm like, no shit, I know he's a midget. So we go up to the show. Now we're coming back. Now Trooper leaves us there. So I got a guy named Dino. Before Donald the driver, Dino's driving us. So I says to Dino, can you give us a ride? He says, everybody's got a cop. You know, we put money in for the trip. So everybody's going to give $20 to get a ride back from Somerville, wherever they're going, or $15, $20, whatever it was, $15, $20. So here's time. It's me. It's Trooper Gilmore ends up getting in. I don't know what happened to his car, but he leaves his car there now. He disappears and he shows up. Trooper's in the vehicle. I'm in the vehicle. Tiny the Terrible's in the vehicle. Peter B's in the vehicle.
Oh, man.
And the driver is Dino, who's just a complete mock.
Is this Dino Angel that used to work at?
No, but I like Dino Angel. It was not him. It's Dino Mock. He's just a mock. He was just some guy that used to work at Alex's in Stoughton. He was a bouncer with me, and he was looking for a part-time job, so I made him a driver, and he loved driving. So he was driving, but he was broke as a joke. He couldn't keep a job, so he needed gas money. It was, all right, Dino, you're going to drive us all? He's like, everybody agrees they're going to give $15, $20. So here we go. We're pulling up. Peter's in the back, you know, taking up most of the back. Over there's Trooper, you know, Trooper's smoking the fucking things out, smoking the car, right? Dino's driving along, right? You know what I'm talking about. There's Tiny, like, saying, talking all this shit. And I'm like, I'm back with this. I'm thinking to myself, I'm back with this guy again. So Dino says to me, these guys are okay. They're going to get, because, you know, I need money to get back, because he was going back to New York. I said, they'll all give you money. So Tiny lives somewhere in Providence. Does that sound right?
Yeah,
We're going
Providence,
Pawtucket.
Pawtucket. Yeah.
Pawtucket.
Pawtucket, yeah.
That's what it was. Now we're driving into Pawtucket. We come up to a set of lights. There's Tiny. We come up to the set of lights. He's in the back seat, passenger near the door. He comes up to the lights. Tiny's like telling Dino where to go. Oh, yeah, up here, I'm right up here, man. I live right up here, man. He was young. And then he comes up to the lights. Now, he couldn't have been far from where he lives, because all of a sudden, the door pops open. There he goes.
So he ran.
So Dino, the driver, stops at the light. This is a shoot. Stops at the light, jumps out. He's chasing the fucking midget down the street, and there goes Tiny, flipping him off, running. He goes into a restaurant and hides under a sink. I guess he couldn't find him, and Dino was pissed. Dino quit. He quit right there.
Well,
Tiny, you owe money for gas money. $19.99 or something.
You know,
If you're listening, Tiny.
Tiny and I, you know, he used
I
to,
like Tiny,
He
though.
used to bring me to wrestling shows when I was getting started and get me booked and do the deductions off your pay, and then he'll try to skip on, you know, kicking in for gas. You know what he used to do? He used to stash his payday in his ass. then
That's definitely too much information,
He would
man.
use that as an excuse, not that money's been in my ass. Do I still need to give you gas money? I'm like, yeah, you're gonna take your little ass, wobble to the cash register, and hand the ass money to the attendant over there. So that's Tiny. Doug, wherever you are, if you're watching, I love you. And I do not owe you money for that Puerto Rican festival show. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Everybody, so there you go. You got your info out there, but
So now we kind of backtrack. You did the show with The Rock. We were talking about UCW, your debut for Showcase, slapping the champ, the Gary Gold story. Now, does this lead to the MMA now? Is this the stage where Joe?
we got a call. Is a caller calling in?
No, this is for the comments. The
Okay.
calls go over there.
Yeah, 'cause that'll probably be what, 09?
MMA is 09 coming back with your company.
Yeah.
Vega's already with you. You got Barricade over there, Mike Nice. You got a few decent guys over there working for you. You were because you started in 07, right?
Yes.
2007 you debuted, Showcase Pro Wrestling debuted in 07. I worked with you in 2009. I worked about 3 shows. The Gary Gold incident, you got rid of me, and I couldn't blame you after that. So after that, I ended up working a little bit 2010. I ended up working back with Jason Rumble for a while, Victory Championship Wrestling. And I worked up there, Victory Championship Wrestling. I did a little play-by-play. I did a little in-ring. I worked with Steve Reaper, who was an MMA guy too. We did like a 3-round MMA type match. It was pretty cool. And I worked with a Julian Starr up there.
Yeah.
Some pretty decent workers up there. What Jason had at that time. And then in 2010, 11 is when I started training back. I already had a boxing background. I was a boxer in the 90s. I boxed amateur.
Yes.
So in 2009, like you were
Yeah.
boxing. Now 2009, I started kickboxing. 2010, I started doing on-ground grappling. 2011, I debuted with Cage Fighting Extreme, and that's when the cage fighting come down. Jason Rumble was one of my cornermen, and Wally Ambrose, which was one of the Shahari Dojo trainers, he was another cornerman, and Kevin Wyatt was the third cornerman, and it was at the Jungleplex in Plymouth, Mass. What a rush, man! What a rush.
So was it something, like you said, you had the amateur boxing background, was it something that you always wanted to do and try, and you finally got to it?
Yeah, I always wanted to get in it, and it was. You got to remember too. You got to remember, my daughter was still growing up. I was still married, but when I got divorced in 2009, that was it, man. I just said I'm gonna go for it. What the fuck's that say?
Doc Ozone says hi.
Oh, Doc.
What's up,
man.
Doc? Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah. So that's what happened in MMA. So shout out to this guy Orlando West, Doc Ozone. I met him at the UCW with John McAdam. And Doc, are you listening right now, brother?
Some
Do you
of the
remember?
comments over here. Yeah.
Check up the Doc's listening. Doc, do you remember that interview when I grabbed you by your neck and you had that suit on? Remember that shoot? But we became good friends after that. We used to go to a club called the Sisters, and some place over there. I think it was called Sisters up in Boston. Doc Ozone. He still can't believe he became a manager. He was a commentator. He was Orlando West. He was a commentator. He worked with Chris Cruz from WCW. Chris Cruz.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad he's doing good. Doc, hello to you. I'm on the pod. These guys are paying me great. You should get on here. They pay $500 a gig. But good.
Yeah, checks coming from Blackheart.
Oh, it's in the mail. I'm
Yeah.
still waiting.
Yeah.
You owe me that money for Bobo Brazil Jr. too.
Absolutely.
That's a good project.
Well,
But Doc, I just want to say,
He was waiting for a check for over a year, so
I
maybe
know.
close to a year. I
checks
don't
in
know.
the mail. Oh, I heard
Well,
about that.
that was
Yeah,
technically 8 months, but
But Doc, but anyways, I was glad that you brought that out in the open. People need to be real. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah.
But Doc Ozone, Orlando West, great guy. It's a brotherhood, man. We go back, and a lot of us, got,
we got all the drama, that comes with the territory of being in professional wrestling. Egos, adrenaline sometimes kicking in.
Exactly, but you know what? Not everybody gets to know people on a personal level. Like, we've had that privilege. We bumped into each other after years not seeing each other at the IWF reunion last year, remember?
Yes.
And it was like we never missed. I mean, I had a blast with you
Never
guys.
missed a beat. Yeah, we
Never missed a
stopped
beat.
talking.
Good laughs,
and we got
good
our
times.
friendship back. You know what I mean? But you gentlemen, and especially Chris, because Chris, and Vega, you're getting to know me. But you get to know someone, you're like, hey, shit, that guy's not such a bad guy after all.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, perception goes a long way. You know, there's a lot of people that, having opinions on myself or Chris or whoever that might be, but sometimes, you could be completely wrong about
somebody. Exactly.
About somebody.
Because you got to remember, it's a work. Pro wrestling's a work.
Yeah.
I'm not really a heel, people,
Oh no, you're a heel.
but they do call me the real heel.
the real
You're a
heel.
heel.
Joel Davis. So,
Well,
Joe,
yeah.
you have your first MMA fight. Does your career in MMA continue? Do you take a break? How does that pan out for the real deal?
So I fight in front of 3,000 fans. It's a big fight. It's Jungleplex. They call it in 241 in the first round. They call it a TKO. The fighter I was fighting was 25 years old. His name was Peter, not McNeely. I know that was the one that fought Tyson. Peter, some Italian name, 27. This guy was ripped. His father was an attorney or something. There was banners hanging with his father's name. He was trained out in Campanelli's out in Brockton. You know that area.
Mm-hmm.
He was a favorite out in that area. Now, what happened was the referees were brought in from Georgia or something or other. Again, I'm not saying it's rigged or it's a work like pro wrestling, but they called it prematurely. So it depressed me that I got called. Because I was still fighting. Did you ever see the fight? Did you see the fight?
I saw some of it. I ain't really see the whole.
When I cut him. He was cut. I caught him with a hook. And then we went down to the cage, down to the mat next to the cage. And I could hear his guys yelling. I couldn't even hear my guys yelling. Anyways, long story short, 241 in it. They call it TKO. They give it to him. Went through a depression, 14-day depression. Started to train coming back. Actually, Rufo was telling me, don't quit, don't do it. My mom was very nervous. She already had a heart condition way back then.
Yeah.
And my daughter was still young. I'm like, do I want to go back? And I didn't. I kept on training.
Yeah.
I trained kickboxing. I trained boxing. I did a little amateur boxing up in the ring, at the dojos, getting ready for a second cage fight.
Yeah.
And
Just never happened.
that never happened. And again, it's a shoot. I'm not going to be up here making up shit. I'm telling you how it is.
So, Joe, you got to do the MMA. You gave it a shot, gave it your all. Didn't pan out the way that you planned, but you still got it done. You still achieved what your goal was
It's
to
tough
get
to
in the
do.
cage.
13 months of training, bro.
Yes.
Plus, you got to go be licensed and everything, man,
Yes.
to get in the cage.
Yes, I know. So now I don't see you in a little while.
That was it.
I ain't hear from you in a little while, and then, like you said, we reconnected again at the reunion. And next thing I know, Joel Davis, the comedian. How does that come about?
This guy's fucking good. You're good at what you're doing. You bet. You quit your day job. You really got good. No shit. I'm not trying to be nice or kiss anyone's ass. I'm like you. I don't kiss anyone's ass. I don't go over dinner for anybody for a booking. I don't do any of that shit. I work hard at it. And just so everybody knows, I am a stand-up comedian. I started last year. I debuted November 1st, 2022. So I get into comedy. But let me tell you something. There's a lot of similarities of pro wrestling and stand-up comedy. And one of them is there's a ton of bullshitters. And if they give bullshit awards out, man, there's some stand-up comedians, you know who you are, and there's some pro wrestlers, you know who you are. There's some real bullshit going on. I'll give you one story. I met one comedian on my third or fourth gig. I met him somewhere here in Rhode Island, and and he told me, he says he was getting a shot at being in a sitcom. He's like, I love your energy, Joel. You can be in a sitcom. It's going to be a great gig for you. I was all excited. You know what I mean? I call him up. Fucking phone got disconnected. You don't even live anywhere. I see him a few. I said, "What's going on?" I said, well, "I'm homeless. I don't work right now." I'm like, "You're going to be in a sitcom?" He's like, "Well, I thought I was, but I probably not." I'm like, "Dude, there's a lot of bullshitters in both comedy and pro
wrestling." Yeah.
But I got in it because.
Well, what's the story? How did you make that transition?
Well, you got to remember, I did commercials back in the day. I don't know if you know that. I did commercials.
No, didn't know that.
Yeah, I did Claiborne Cologne. I did Ked Shoes. And I did Jerry Springer, and that was a show twice.
Ooh,
You did it
we
too.
We didn't even go down that road. We may have to save that one because we have to save that story. Maybe,
That's a good story.
Maybe to the end.
I seen the episode. He was kind of like the job guy on that show.
Chris was.
Oh my! You want to get into it now? I was the ultimate
he's
baby
trying-
face.
he's trying to
They
defend himself
absolutely
now.
no. They
Chris did a
loved
good
me.
job.
They loved. Yeah, but see, the screwed up part about that, right? You want to set the story on that one? I think we were the first show where they had a do not touch policy. Remember when they came back? They go, if you guys have any physical of anything, we're shutting down, cutting the
Yeah,
tape.
but didn't I
nothing.
headbutt you? Because you fell off the stage at one point.
No, you did. And if,
Look it up.
If
Real
I
Deal
fell
Joe
off
Davis
the-
on
if
Jerry
I
Springer.
fell off the
Real Deal
stage,
Joe
it's
Davis.
because your
And
shirt
you
blinded me to
let
how
the
green it
listeners
was.
be the judge, right? Put
That
that down
did
as
not-
one of the-
Yep.
Did Chris Blackheart get headbutted off the stage? You fell
No.
off the stage, brother, when I came at you.
No,
I know
you
that.
didn't. You could barely stand up and get over the chair.
We'll have to go back and watch
Don't
that
make me.
episode.
All right, okay,
Yeah, I
do it
remember-
now. Do the Bull Montana for me. Tell the Bull story.
I remember what I said.
Remember
I
the
said,
Bull Montana story
I do the
backstage?
Bull Montana story.
Tell that
But
story.
I remember I said I was going to rip your ass and shove it up your ass.
No, you
your arm
didn't.
up your ass,
No.
rather.
So what's this
We had a
bull?
great time. We got paid great.
No, no,
I mean, I'm
they-
still living off
they
that money.
loved me. They hated you. That was probably my best baby face ever.
But how many guys can say they were in Chicago and Jerry Springer? I mean, there's not many of us. Iron Sheik, God rest his soul. You and
Yeah,
I did it. You
no,
know,
yeah,
did it.
no, that
it's
was
a
fun.
great thing, and there it is. I mean, Jerry Springer.
So
You know,
what's the Bull Montana story?
the Bull Montana story is they were looking for some extras, and Bull says, "Hey, I want to go." You know, you mumble, "I'll go, David. I'll go." And I said, "Bull, let me see what I can do." You know, he said, "I want to go. Bring me out Jerry Springer. Bring me out Jerry." I said, "All right." So I had him. I had him stay over at my place. Man, he was tough to take care of, man. He was Bull, love Bull, what a legend, well known.
Yeah.
Great manager, managed me for a while. I managed Abdullah the Butcher. Bull was a great talent in his own way, but he was a fucking character. I mean, he did some crazy shit. But he wanted to go to Jerry Springer, and I got him on, but he really fucked me on that. Because when I got him up there, Bull had his own mind, you know what I mean?
He had his own booking in
His own booking. No, not his own book, but his own mind. He goes up, we fly him up. Toby Yashimoto's the promoter. Toby says, "Hey," he says, "is this the guy?" I said, "Yep, this is the guy." Ringo, his name's Ron Stefano. I said, "This is the guy, Ron." And right away, "Call me Bull." So Toby just got there, call me Bull.
We're at 60.
He said, "Listen," he said, "this is what we're going to do." And he goes over the storyline. He says, "Bull," he says, you met this woman when you were working at the grocery store. You two started dating at the grocery store. And you got it, Bull? And Bull's sitting there. And Toby sees me, and Don McNeil from the AWA, my original contact's there. It's just all on me. Everybody's looking at me like, who the fuck is this guy? Because, you know, Bull's like staring out into space and shit, not listening to the instructions. You know how Bull is, right? So I look over there, brothers, and I see him, and I look at him, and the freaking Toby says to me, says, "Now, where did you meet?" Now, when Jerry asked you, pointing to Bull, "Where did you meet your girlfriend?" Now, remember, it's the grocery store.
Yes.
Bull says, just like this. I was bowling, and she was bowling. And I asked her about the bowling balls, and she, no, not bowling. Jerry's going to ask you, you met her at the supermarket. Ask him again, Bull. And the Bull, I don't want to fucking do this. I don't want to fucking do this anyways. They had the makeup on him and everything. He was all mixed up. He was supposed to go on, and they cut him last
So they
minute.
scrapped him last minute.
He never went on.
And then we're on because
He had like the thing, you know how you
And
get a
I think we, if I'm not mistaken, I
Whoa.
think Danny Bedondi found the episode.
he was trying to do remember when he was trying to do the bull charge?
Is that the episode, Dan? Give me a thumbs up if that's the one. Yep. we
Show
got
the
it on
headbutt.
there.
Show the
If you
headbutt when I
wanna-
headbutt.
Is that,
If you
you
wanna
can't
show
show
a
something
clip
that didn't
of the
exist.
Jerry Springer show with Chris Blackheart and the
It's
real
a shoe.
deal,
It's a
Joe
shoe.
Davis.
Exclusive. There it is. The head. Oh, wait, coming up. It was definitely a headbutt, Chris.
I don't
mean,
think
it was talking years ago. You probably don't remember. You were unconscious.
It was probably so bad that he took his memory ahead, but you know, I'm
But
looking at
it's
it.
it's just what a ride it's been. Really, it really has been a great ride. It really has. That's why I'm glad I came up for this. I mean,
I'm glad to have you, Joe.
I mean,
if you want to plug those dates again.
Oh,
coming
you
up
want to
for-
leave with that?
for your
what the headbutt? Headbutting
The
you off the
land of
stage.
make believe?
The land of make-believe headbutts.
People can look it up. Real
Yeah,
deal
they
Joe
could-
All right,
Davis
look
on
it up,
YouTube.
watch
They
it.
could look
Jerry
it up.
Springer.
They could look it up, and they could also look up
But
Joe.
remember, you're a two-time, but that was your second time.
That was my second
Yes.
time on the show. Yeah,
They could look up Joe, his next upcoming events, comedy events, Joe, if you want to
Thank you,
get
Don.
us through that again.
Wednesday night, it's going to be Wednesday night, Rainham, Mass. The Harry Del Las Camilla. It's a restaurant on Broadway, Rainham, Mass. It's going to be Diane for laughs. Allison Diane is the promoter. It's her first time at this Italian restaurante, and it's going to be a stand-up comedy show. I'm one of the comedians. I cannot wait to go in. I'm going to keep it raw and real like I always do. That's July 19. From July 19, we're going to be over there at the big hotel for the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. I have the honor to induct referee Rich Lannon. Joe Bruin, you're going to get a call after this. I need about 25 minutes to talk about him. He needs
Just 25 minutes, Joe.
Just 25 minutes, Joe. And then on the 30th, back in Cranston, Rhode Island, at the Comedy Park. Hey guys, I'm giving it my all. I'm giving it a shot. I'm looking at New York in September, possibly. I'm gonna, and it's like anything else. And on a serious note, I did motivation speaking for 4 years. All truth aside, you can live your dream. Just do it. I mean, look at these guys. I mean, these guys are still active. I mean, I can't believe they're doing it. They're 5 years older than me, but they're still in the business. Oh yeah, 5 years younger.
I don't know. We'll keep it. I don't know how old Blackheart is now,
But Blackheart, but we'll just say something about Blackheart. I seen the big street fight. I did that one night return. Remember in March?
Yes,
March,
you were- yep.
Big show. I was there. I did the
Yes,
gig.
yes.
We did the thing. The run was a great show, great tag. I never told Blackheart this, but I'll tell him on air. In the tag match, Blackheart, and this is a compliment. Blackheart, you did great. The entire match, sitting on the apron and selling like Captain Lou Albano. I mean, that's all you did is you sat on the apron and you took this and you like rolled around until the finish.
Yeah.
No, you did good. He did good.
Hey, I was working the outside, and if
Yeah.
I was doing a little Albano, I would probably have a sandwich out there with me.
If he had
No,
a
it looked
record
good.
for not,
You watch the footage, folks. He was sitting on the apron.
Gotta go
you
back.
Went, you went 17 minutes. He was on the apron
gotta
16
go back
minutes.
to SB Wrestling on YouTube and
No,
watch
which one? Watch the
March
footage, and
16.
if you feel that I was out there sitting,
It's a compliment. You did great, Chris. I mean, these guys are still working. I mean, hey, you know what? You get longevity in the business. How many guys make it a month or two shows and they're gone? Or
right,
a year? You know what I mean?
well, we're just talking about that. The average seemed like expected is like 5 to 7 years now for indie guys.
Yeah,
Which is really, really short.
You don't see it. And just before we conclude, just so everybody knows, this is the way the business should be. And I've been watching the podcast. I love this podcast. I don't miss an episode. Sean Candido, good job, superstar. I seen you on here. I seen the other episodes. Always very enjoyable watching. And what these gentlemen are saying is true. There's no time off. Things are changing. When you were training back in the 90s, like me and these guys, you didn't have no picnics and no family thing. Train. You got to work for it. You got to work. I remember taking days off. I was security out in the projects in Boston, and I was taking any time I had. I was losing a payday on my regular job, losing whatever it was, $50 a shift, just to go and get my $15, $25 payday and travel who knows how far just to get work with Rumble, whatever have you. Yeah. That's what you really should be doing, man. And if you want it, you got to get it. I spoke to a couple guys in your locker room that had great attitudes. One of them was Godfrey, Rambo. This guy's got a future. I talked to him a bit. Told him how Taz talked to me when I started. I talked to him. That guy's got a future. He had a great attitude. The other guys that had a great attitude is the other gentleman there that I spoke to. At first, I didn't like the gimmick. I love the gimmick. The student and the graduate.
Danny Cabral and Christopher Spratt.
Those guys are awesome. Awesome. You had one or two guys with a little bit of an attitude. We're not going to drop their names, but guys, get over it. You know what I'm saying? Get over it. But 90% of the locker room was class act. It was a pleasure to work with the SPW. But again, you got to pay your dues, man.
Yeah, you have to. And before we run out of here, because I did mention that and we talked about it in the beginning of the show, we'll leave with a name game. So I'm going to mention some names, and you just got to give me the shoot answer, whatever comes to mind at first.
Okay, that's fine.
And we'll go back and forth. If you want to start it off, you got a name?
I'm not holding back.
No, remember your manager Ralphie?
Oh, Ralphie G?
Yes.
I mean, is it one word name
Yeah,
game or a
well,
little bit? Just a little.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
short and sweet.
Short and sweet. I'm not going to get into big detail. I would. Ralphie G, the manager.
Yeah.
Useless piece of shit.
Okay, all right. Brittany Brown.
Oh, that was mine.
Brittany Brown, talented, sweetheart lady. Sweetheart lady, talented.
Travis Funk.
Travis Funk believes his own dream. I mean, he's Travis. You're a good guy, man. But I mean, you know, Terry and Dory Funk aren't your relatives. I mean, he started a shooting star. Travis Funk, good
Shooting
guy.
star. He's a shooting
He
star,
was a
too.
shooting star. He worked as a shooting star when he first started up. I remember him ring announcing. He used to introduce me in Seekonk, and he became. But Travis, good guy, but really into his gimmicks. I remember him trying to sell us sweatshirts and T-shirts. I mean, we wouldn't even. I'm like, bro, let's go home in the match. We got 5 minutes. He's telling me about this. I don't care about the sweatshirts, bro.
Anthony Rufo.
One of the best promoters, Anthony Rufo, and one of the great workers. I mean, Anthony Rufo team with Extreme Strongman, Gino Martino, the Millennium Killers. I mean, these guys were legit. That was a legit team. Love Gino, love Anthony Rufo. God rest your soul, Anthony Rufo. Gino Martino, nothing but good to say about you.
That was my next guy, man. You stole it from me.
Gino Martino,
Oh,
and
I
I love
got
your brother, Gino.
Someone that you didn't tell any stories about. Steve Ricard.
Steve
Do
Ricard.
you want to pause and tell a story? I want to hear the stories about the letters.
Steve
This
Ricard-
is all
Steve-
in the name game. Go ahead.
Steve Ricard, you used to write me letters. I mean, let's be honest. You wrote me letters. I mean,
What kind of letters?
letters asking how to get in the business. Letters basically kissing my ass. Selling the VHS tapes back in the day, Steve. You remember that? You
'Cause
remember?
he-
Actually,
that's a-
Steve, you owe me money too, man.
What was he?
This is Steve Ricard, the owner of Top Row Promotions.
Well, whatever
Steve
he
Ricard.
is now.
Yeah, yes.
When he
Steve
was a kid,
Ricard,
when he
who
was
did
like,
the favor to Joe Eugenio to make it. I mean,
yeah.
what, it was
They
18?
went camping? Or?
he went camping, all right.
I don't know, man. I'm just going by my notes.
I'm not saying I don't know all the details to it. I just know Steve was one of those guys that uses people. That's the way I remember him, as a user. And then when he got where he had to go, he didn't know anybody. Steve, believe me, you ain't shit. Okay, I don't give a shit what you're doing in Fall River, and go ahead on another date with your other buddy. Okay, because you know what you're doing.
You got another name?
Joe Eugenio.
Oh, one of the biggest pieces of shit around. He's a fat fuck. He's one. I'm sorry. He's one. I mean, some people like him because they got bookings from him, but Eugenio, he's probably one of the worst I've ever met. He's really, Eugenio, you're a fucking dirtbag.
The Boston bad boy, Tony Rumble. We did that one already.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, Jason Rumble. I mean, not a bad guy. Not a bad guy. I mean, but I think Jason's a good guy. Sometimes when he talks to you, you turn your back. All of a sudden, hey, he's got something to say.
Trooper Gilmore.
Trooper Gilmore, man. I mean, he ran with me for a while. We worked a lot, tags. We did a lot. Trooper's a good guy. I got really not to say about Trooper. Trooper's a sneaky motherfucker. I mean, Trooper will sneak. Trooper will sneak, and he owes a lot of people some paydays too. I mean, Trooper's the guy. He's like a Paulie Dangerously. He's nice and smooth with you, tells you everything, tells you you're gonna get paid. But when it all comes down to it, Trooper Gilmore, he's like Tiny the Terrible. He's hiding under the sink.
The Bionic Dan Badandi.
I mean, this guy's a class act. He was a class act from day one. He was a legitimate athlete, Dan Badani. Me and him hit it off right away. We tagged up. I only had 2 tag team partners in my entire career. One was Dan
There's a picture
Badani.
right there of you guys.
As
on the
champions,
screen.
yeah, I'd
As
love to see it.
champions.
We were champions for a while. We had the straps for actually Anthony Rufo. UCW tag team champions was the All-American deal. Dan Badani and I, great athlete. Always had each other's backs. I mean, even you watch some of the footage when some of the fans got a little unruly. Dan was always watching my back. I was watching his back. And we wrestled in some real shitholes in Colton, New Bedford. I wouldn't even piss in New Bedford. Never mind work there.
Wow. The boss, Chris Blackheart.
Oh, Chris Blackheart, man, he's got a great sense of humor. He's a good guy. He tells it how it is. He's paid his dues in the business. With Blackheart, he'll tell you how it is either way if you like it or not. He is a pro. He does joke. He does joke around, but when it comes to business, Blackheart is all business.
You got one last one, Chris
I'm
Blackheart?
not-
Good.
I have a good one.
Superstar
Ooh, that's
Bush
a good one.
Petrillo. That's a good one, Dan.
Well, I knew Butch a little bit, I mean, he did spend a Thanksgiving at Peter B's house one year. God rest his soul. I know he's passed, Butch DePrillo. Didn't know him that good. Kind of a loud guy. I know he stayed at Peter's for Thanksgiving. I remember talking to Pete the next day. Butch didn't leave. Butch slept over. Butch wouldn't leave. He wanted more leftovers. Butch, hey, I mean, he did one of the events at one of my sports card shows, and not a bad guy. I didn't really know him. I think he was a little bit, into his gimmick too
I'll
much.
give you a better one for the last one, and he's actually going to be here live next week in studio. Our next guest for next week, Knuckles Nelson.
Well, we came up together, me and Knuckles. I mean, we weren't the best of friends. There's no one know. That's not a secret. We were never best of friends, but we still have a brotherhood as far as I'm concerned. We came up with Tony Rumble, and I'm sure he respects me, and I respect him. We worked a lot of years together, and he's done a lot. He's turned his life around as far as I heard.
So, yeah, man, that was the name game with the real deal, Joel Davis. And again, I got to do the rundown. I'm sorry, but July 14th, we're back at the arena, 126 Main Street in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. The 28th, the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Warwick, Rhode Island, followed by the 29th is a double shot. Actually, I forgot to give those guys a shout out. We'll be at FanFest again at the Warwick Plaza Hotel, and at night we'll be at the church in Providence for the reunion, the New England Wrestling Alliance reunion show. I'll be teaming up with Evie De La Rosa, taking on Piper's daughter, and I forget the other guy's name, but we'll be in a mixed tag team action there.
Is that Dino Angel?
Yeah, that's
Yep.
he's
Good guy.
He's putting it together,
He's a good guy.
NWA reunion show, and that's the 29th of July. July 30th, we'll be at Indian Point Park for the Puerto Rican Bay Fest. Training Center, where they're Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays.
Their new accelerator program.
And you could see us at 126 Main Street in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Also follow us on all our social media. That's SP Wrestling on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. He likes to dance, you know that?
Oh, I know.
He likes to get
I
down.
know.
But yeah, next week we'll be back, July 13, live in the studio. Joining us, none other than Knuckles Nelson, Brandon Higgins, and it's going to be a great time. I like to see him again. We got some stories that we share. Great individual. We'll have him here next week. Joe, anything you want to plug? Social media, anything you want to say to the fans?
Real Deal Fitness and Conditioning. Check out the page, Real Deal Fitness and Conditioning on Facebook, man. You can check it out, and on YouTube, if you search Real Deal Joel Davis, that's close to 100 videos, anywhere from, of course, my pro wrestling career, a little bit of kickboxing's in there. There's also some motivation speaking, stand-up comedy gigs, the 2 Jerry Springer shows. You can see Blackheart getting headbutted on one of those. There's a lot of different footage on there, even on the streets interviews, when I take people off the streets and ask them about fitness and conditioning, and they tell you a bullshit story. Check it out, Real Deal Fitness and Conditioning on Facebook, Real Deal Joel Davis on YouTube. Hey, hope I didn't hurt anybody's feelings, man. I just said it how it was, and that's what you wanted. You wanted it to be real.
Of course,
It was
real raw and
Real and
uncut.
raw.
And for myself, at Pun Don Vega on Instagram, Don Vega on Facebook. My new shirt just got dropped. I like to plug that, $25 for sizes small to extra large. Double X shirts are $30. You could contact me in my social media for that. But you got anything, Chris Blackheart?
That's it. You said it all. If you want to make the dream happen, showcaseprowrestling.com. Send us an inquiry. Find out more about the school, about our trainers. Start the dream now. Don't think it. Start living it.
So with that being said, it's been a Real Deal podcast live with this gentleman right here, the Real Deal Joel Davis. Always keeping it real, man. It's a pleasure having you, man. I appreciate you.
Pleasure.
Thank you, brother.
So for Don Vega, the boss Chris Blackheart, and the real deal, we'll catch you down the road in the Showcase Pod.